years, both within the legal education sector, but also more broadly in my day job, which is all around AI and digital literacies for students across universities. And one of the things I've come to learn is that to talk about literacies, we also need to talk about skills, and they kind of go hand in hand. So I've got a slide that sort of distinguishes the two and what elements we need to be looking at for skills as well as for literacies. This is a big topic, and I've been doing a lot of work with colleagues who are here attending this event, but also others, both in the UK, Europe, and globally, around what AI literacies look like for law students, what digital lawyering looks like. And I know our next speaker, Emma Jones, has done a lot of work with me in this space. And actually, there's so many questions that we need to unpack before we could develop what law tech literacies and skills look like. But I've come up with 3 questions for today, and I'm going to try and answer them. All of this work that I am sharing with you is work in draft. So I'm very keen to hear your views. So you can write to me, hear your views, and put together a group of people who might like to collaborate and develop work in this area. But for now, my thinking around law tech and law literacies, law tech skills and literacies. So the first question is around how are technologies evolving? And how is it changing the nature of work, both within law and legal practice, but also more broadly, because of course, not all our students who study law go into doing lawyering. Okay, there are so many views around this, but I've synthesized it in this way. I've got 4 or 5 guiding principles and then a little map to show you, and that's kind of my presentation. Daniel Susskind, in the book, The World of Work in 2023, talks about ways in which we could rethink what professions look like and what jobs are all about. So for him, it's all around unpacking what lawyering is, what doctoring is, what teaching is, and looking at the specific tasks and how we could improve our human-centered skills around those specific tasks, or simply just asking the question, could this be done better by technology? If so, what do we need to know about the technology to do it more efficiently? Where our professional responsibilities as lawyers sit within that, but also how we could add and enhance and influence work that technology is doing. So moving away from jobs as a fixed sort of huge entity into something much more task focused. So having read his work, I came up with something which I have never presented to any audience. You are the first. So this is sort of my thinking. The future of legal work is obviously tech enabled. It's task divided, human centered, and client focused. I wonder if you agree with me on that. Of course, we all know that technology is not there to replace lawyers, but it's really about, that's why we're here today, redefining what legal education looks like, what legal practice looks like, what's the point of a law degree, but also how do we get students to collaborate with technology as a partner in what we do, but at the same time, we heard from the lawyers in the previous session what employers are looking for, that real sort of professional responsibility and understanding the ethics that go behind it. So my strapline for guiding principle 1 around the future of work is this: technology isn't replacing lawyers, but it is definitely redefining what we are meant to be doing. So what do we need to consider within the law tech skills and literacies space? It's about using a law degree and helping students move from expert to innovator. Now, it sounds quite cheesy, and when I first wrote this, I thought, might be laughed at by people when you say something like this. Law is a very serious subject. But at the same time, when you think about, I have spent a long time working in the AI space in particular, and I'm not talking about AI because we've got experts who are coming after me to talk about AI. I'm talking more broadly around technology. The whole point of technology is to help us innovate and help us be better in some of the things that we are doing, but at the same time to free up our time so we could do better things for our clients or for the people around us, the whole building relationships. So part of it is innovation. So I put that there boldly in the hope that no one's going to laugh. Okay, so what's the impact of law tech? Well, for our curriculum, so this is something that I built a few days ago. Again, not presented to anybody. This is why I'm looking for a group of people who work with me to discuss these sorts of things and make it better. So, yep, we need to rethink legal practice and legal education for a digital world. Law and innovation goes together may not be a thing that we might have thought about, say, 10 years ago, but all the examples we have heard so far this morning, and we're going to hear in this panel, but also other panels, it's all about innovation through technology. So what that looks like, embracing new tools, new roles, new mindsets, and in my mind, that's the future of law. Richard Susskind talks a lot about this. I know law firms who have come to present here this morning, but also law firms I work with, such as Shoesmiths, have done brilliant work in the space around changing mindsets, around technology, around what lawyers do and what the future of law is. And of course, all of this means future-proofing legal education. So in my mind, it's about equipping students with interdisciplinary knowledge, research skills, global awareness to tackle problems in the world, but we tackle all of that through the aid of technology. So technology not to replace, but to aid and collaborate like a partner in what we are doing. So the big question then, this is the second question, the big question is, what are the, bear with me, I've got something on my screen. What are the law graduate attributes that will future-proof students, and what are the outcomes of a law degree? This has been a big project that we are all working on, and also the Quality Assurance Agency about 2 years ago when we were in a group where we were looking at what the law subject benchmarks looked like. This was a massive conversation, but very sad to say that the Quality Assurance Agency subject benchmarks for law, it really does need reinvigorating and re-looking at, and we had to do that, or we'll need to do that very quickly, because not quite there for today's very technologically enabled world of both practice and education. So Andy asked me to think a little bit more around the outcomes of a law degree. That's a whole PhD in itself. So I did my best and I came up with a few statements. Some are in purple and some are in blue. The reason for it is because I want to focus on the blue bits in the interest of time. As you see, I've got many slides, so I'm going to focus on just a few things. We all agree that, you know, a law degree isn't just about preparing students to become lawyers. A well-designed degree equips students with powerful combination of intellectual, professional, transferable skills for a wide variety of different things that they would be doing with their law degree. And I think the ones in purple are things that we all agree are things that we want to see students who study law should be able to do. So translate complexity, being able to offer services. So it's that mindset of offering service, or one of a service mindset. Oh, that's what I was trying to get at. But also help us to think more precisely, argue with clarity, so on and so forth. We agree that that's kind of the basics. But when you're thinking about law tech skills and literacies, we need to develop our benchmark statements as well as how we think about the law degree a little bit more than the things that are in purple, which is learning the law, absolutely, and that's a must. And there's a lot of literature out there that talks about, well, why do we need to focus on knowledge? Just focus on skills because AI does the knowledge. Absolutely wrong. And I've got a model that in one of my slides. It is so important that we get our foundational knowledge absolutely right, because how can you critique the output from a piece of technology if you don't know whether it's correct, it's wrong? You are not able to critically evaluate that output. So actually, in light of AI, knowledge and understanding the core of what you do or what your subject discipline is so important. So I might rephrase that first blue line, because I wrote the other day, it's no longer enough to know about the law, but I might make it a little bit stronger around the foundational knowledge. We need to know how law gets done in a digital world. And this is quite a loaded statement, because there is so much that goes into the practice of law or the practice of whatever profession in a digital world. I do believe law tech is creating a new legal toolkit, like what Andy presented earlier this morning, and future lawyers need to know how to use it and use it responsibly and ethically and transparently. Prepare for practice in a profession that's part human, part machine. Again, doesn't just involve legal profession. All our professions are like that. Same with teaching. And in a world where algorithms are prevalent, the human lawyer is a moral compass. Again, that's quite important because professional responsibility and digital ethics are things that really need to be incorporated into the law degree. It's so vital. At the same time, somebody mentioned in panel one around how our regulators have said that, well, you've got, professional responsibility already. You've got the rules and go with that. Well, actually, those rules need to be interpreted in such a sort of different way in order to apply to the digital world. So maybe there's a few things that we need to look at in terms of what digital ethics and professional responsibility looks like. My final question is this, and this is where I've got some models to show you. What do law tech skills and literacies look like within a law degree? And how can we build this into our learning, teaching, and assessment strategy? A huge question. As I said, for years I've been working on this. I don't really have an answer because technology has been evolving at such a great pace. Originally, we were looking at digital skills and literacies, and then from 2023, we've been looking at AI skills and literacies. So kind of took them together as law tech, and what does that mean? I've come up with a definition of what law tech skills literacies are. Which in my mind are the competencies that enable students to excel and thrive, engage with, apply, critically evaluate technology in the context of legal work, but it could be broader than just legal work because obviously students use law degrees to do different things. But then it's really important that we know that it goes beyond tools and software and hardware because as we all know, the technology changes, evolves, enhances itself. So it's not about learning how to use the tools, but it's about understanding how technology is changing what we're trying to achieve, how we serve our clients, improve access to justice, and reshape the world of work. When I started this presentation, I said something around, in my mind, I think skills and literacies are slightly different things. And so I've sort of picked out what I think they are. And I think it's quite important to have the differences when trying to build a model for law tech competencies. So in my mind, the skills part is all about practical abilities, the how-to, hands-on capabilities lawyers need or law students need. So we can develop that through critical thinking about tech and hands-on experience. So it's all about how do we execute legal tasks or any tasks more efficiently. The literacies part is around building critical understanding and awareness. The why and the what requires us to develop criticality. And to have criticality, we need to have knowledge and understanding. Only then we can be critical about something. So understanding the implications of tech, why we are developing certain skills, how we are applying certain skills, and the purpose is to make informed, responsible technological decisions. Okay, so another thing, an equation. I love math, so equations are my thing. Surprisingly, there's only one equation in today's presentation. Law tech skills and literacies equals having solid legal knowledge, digital fluency, and ethical awareness, ethical application. And that's very simple, but to break it down, there's a lot of different components within it. So if we were not looking at separate modules to build, but in fact injecting outcomes into the whole of a law degree, in my mind, I would think that these are the basic, the text that are in bold, those are the basic things we need to see in a law degree of today. So we need to, so this is peppered throughout all the different modules that students will study across the 3 years, rather than having standalone modules. You could develop this into a standalone module. I think one of our colleagues in panel one mentioned University of Cumbria's Lawyering in a Digital Age module. It made me smile because when I used to work at Cumbria, I developed that module and we had similar sort of things that are currently in bold on the screen embedded into that. So it made me smile. It kind of took me back to a time that was slightly easier in life. Okay, so back to this. In my mind, apart from having standalone modules, I would think that a law degree of today needs to have these things peppered across all their modules, that the entire ethos of the course. So digital literacies in legal ed, and then I go on and talk about what the learning objectives are. But I'm very aware of time, so can't go into too much detail. But this is why I'm looking to put a working group together so we can discuss this and help evolve the thinking around this. Legal research and data skills, AI and automation in law, legal design, client-centered innovation, change agility, professional responsibility, and digital ethics. A lot of them could be standalone modules in themselves, but it would be great to see how a law degree evolves itself in embedding some or all of these skills and literacies across their courses. There is a piece of work done by Oxford University that talks about how in almost every module that we are studying, there is a AI digital literacies flavor within that. And I think I made some notes here, which was, so for example, in criminal law, we do need to learn about digital evidence and digital forensics, employment law, algorithm, discrimination, torts, automated liability through technology. Those are just some examples, and I've put a reference to their work below. Okay, some models to show you. These models are drafts, so please note that it's not published anywhere. I have presented some of this work elsewhere, but they're draft work, so nothing too serious just yet. But the idea of these models is to enable students to effectively engage with, apply, critically evaluate technology in the context of legal work. So here we are. This is the first model. This model is something I presented at Westminster, looking at not for law students or legal ed, but generally in higher education, if we were to come up with a fit for all subject areas, AI literacies framework, what might that look like? This is my model. There is a lot of guidance and notes that go behind it. And in my day job as chair of the university's AI operations, this is what I'm unpacking across the institution. It's a lot harder than this lovely little diagram. So it's about understanding technical. Somebody in panel 1 talked about generative AI. I beg your pardon, I cannot remember because I'm seeing through a very small screen, so I can't always see the speakers. About generative AI. And I think, Andy, you mentioned generative AI is not a box full of knowledge. It's not a knowledge box. It's very good at pattern recognition. It's very good at being creative. It's very good at doing lots of different things if you prompt it rightly. And there are different ways of prompting and talking to it and getting what you need out of it. But if we go with the mindset that generative AI is not about giving you accurate information, but it's about helping you do things with the accurate information you have, I think that really helps maybe set the scene a little bit differently around all the risks that go with generative AI. Data literacies, something that it was in my previous slide, ethical and social implications, critical thinking. There is so much work for law schools. I mean, law degrees are all about, being able to evaluate and think deeply and dig deeply and think critically. Absolutely. But we need to take that a step further now to look at what that means and looks like. And then this whole thing about judgment and reasoning and being brave about that. Instilling in students curiosity, human-centeredness, design thinking, systems thinking is also key. And then my final one is about collaboration, communicating with a wide variety of people using technology or AI for that matter. And all running through that is this mindset of continuous learning and continuous thinking. Okay, for the purpose of this presentation, I developed something for which I thought this is where I'm looking for collaborators, a law tech competency and curriculum framework. There are 3 parts because I couldn't fit 9 boxes on one slide. But I'm just going to read out the text in purple. because of time, but you can have the slide deck later on. Okay, so the first one is around strong legal fundamentals. I say that, you know, it's irreplaceable for all legal practice. We need to know our knowledge. We need to be intellectually agile. And to be that, we need to have our knowledge and understand the law clearly. We need to master things like writing, argumentation, critical thinking within legal frameworks. Now, there's a lot of literature out there around generative AI doing weird and wonderful things with writing. There's all these things around the, you know, why do we set students essays these days? AI is going to write it for them. Well, there's a lot of work that I've done in my own organization around moving past those fear barriers and actually retaining essays in not just law degrees, other degrees too, and the value that essays bring in terms of graduate skills and attributes, but what they could do to make sure that that students are using AI as a collaborator, but using it ethically. The next one is around integrating legal and technical disciplines. I am a huge advocate for interdisciplinary learning and how we bring interdisciplinarity into law. So I love to see more like the work Andy's doing, working with the law school and the computing school and co-creating learning experiences for students, both law and in computing together. But there are other disciplines that could also be brought into it. Then this thing about understanding the law and ethics of digital technology. And I think this is where I mentioned that there is a piece of research done by Rebecca Williams in Oxford University and her team around what law degrees now need to have as a basic minimum in the subject area when thinking about digital literacies. Now, we're talking about law, tech, and competencies, yet to be really fluent in legal technology, we need to develop not just technical skills and understanding of tech, but actually the whole human centeredness is really important. So developing an agile and critical mindset, being able to thrive in ambiguous, high-stake change environments, developing strong AI literacies. I just don't feel that this box does justice at all, because there's a whole piece of work around what AI literacies for law students looks like and what are the sorts of things that they need to be developing. And in the interest of time and a nice looking slide, I've just put it in one little box. But it's that thing, the last bullet point, which is using AI and learning about how to use and how to prompt generative AI with a solid grasp of what it can and what it can't do. So it's not a knowledge box. Understanding law as a system of tasks. This goes to Daniel Susskind's work around what are the different components of lawyering, and breaking it down into distinct areas, and then really developing our skills in each of those areas, understanding what we as humans bring to that task, and then what machines could bring to that task. Client-centered practice, absolutely essential, because technology frees up our time to be able to do more for our clients, and clients are expecting that kind of high stake, high level of support for the services that we offer. Already said about interdisciplinary awareness and how vital it is, both in the law tech space, but also beyond the law tech space. You know, if we're going to use law as an instrument for service, then understanding problems don't just neatly fit within a law problem. Human problems are very diverse and require multiple set of disciplines to solve them, is really a useful way to think about it. And finally, we do a lot of work remotely, both working from home, offering services to students, to clients, and so on. And I think there's a lot to be said for understanding what remote collaboration looks like in a hybrid world. So these are all nice to have words. Trying to make it come alive is a task and a bit, and this is where I'm looking for collaborators. If you're looking for any further reading, we have a blog on the Association of Learning Technologies website, and that was written by myself, Emma Jones, Francine Ryan, and Terry Wong. We are the authors of Digital Lawyering, which is the book in the middle, and the piece of work that I mentioned twice in my presentation from Rebecca Williams and co. Is on the link, is the third link there.